Welcome to this month's investment update. My name is Greg Smith and I'm joined by Portfolio Manager Warrick Simons, who's based in the US and is here for a few weeks with the team. Hi Warrick, great to have you here. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks Greg. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Well, this year's certainly been an interesting one for markets and quite a productive one for many of the stocks that Generate owns. What were some of the big winners of 2025?
Yeah, well, it's certainly been an interesting year. There's been a huge amount of volatility during the year. I would say there's probably three big areas of winners, of stocks that we've owned or been exposed to, or certainly for global markets where things have done very well. The first one of those I would say broadly is AI and AI-related stocks. This is obviously a theme that's in the news every day, it seems. There is a ton of product announcements coming out. Yeah, we believe this is probably the most important tech cycle of the last 25 years at least. You know, probably in hindsight, I think we'll look back on this and that it's bigger than the internet. Because it's potentially fundamentally a huge change in the way that we operate our daily lives, businesses do business and everything like that. So that was one area of the market that's been very important during 2025 and has driven a large amount of the gains in our portfolio. The second area would be to do with gold and gold miners. Gold has had renewed optimism around it, I suppose, in the last 18 months to 2 years. And this is generally around large investors, you know, sovereign wealth funds or large institutional investors or pension funds looking for some protection to their purchasing power and an alternative to long-dated bonds or in addition to long-dated bonds. So that's for gold, the metal. And then we've participated in that by owning gold miners. And these gold miners have had a very good year in 2025. And in fact, two of the stocks that we own, Alamos Gold and Newmont Mining, are up more than 100% in 2025. So that's the second area. And then the third area that's been really interesting to see is actually, surprisingly somewhat, is European and Asian stocks have done very, very well. Both Europe and Asia in US dollar terms are up 10% more than the US market. So everyone's talking about the US market and AI, and that's what we've been focused on, but actually Europe and Asia have done very, very well as well. So it's certainly, as I said, not dull. There's a lot going on, and been three big areas of the market have grown well this year.
Well, that's fantastic. And so there's some winners there. Looking ahead into how these stocks and sectors are shaping up, let's start with AI. What's your outlook for 2026?
So we remain very, very constructive. We think we're still very much in the early stages of this. I mean, it's been roughly 3 years since ChatGPT was introduced, but we're still really at the early stages of the tech flowing out and people getting used to using the tech. So, you know, whether that's ChatGPT or whether that's Waymo and Tesla robotaxi self-driving cars, there's a lot of that coming through, and that's been fantastic. And that's primarily benefited, I'd call it, the semiconductor and hardware stocks at the early stage of the tech cycle. We think that's going to continue in 2026, but we'll probably, in addition to that, see a broadening, probably to the providers of, I'll call it, compute infrastructure. This is the big cloud computing companies like Microsoft, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, and also newer ones like Oracle and CoreWeave. We think they're going to have a good 2026 as people realize how long-term and sustainable this demand is for more compute, and they are the best providers of that compute. And then we may see in 2026, although this may be more of a 27, 28 thing, is the products built on AI. So what I mean by this is, if you think, well, I'm certainly old enough to remember when the iPhone came out, 2008, 2009, 2010, it wasn't really until about, say, 2012, 2013 that we started to see the products built on the tech of the iPhone. So Instagram, Uber, all of that App Store economy, those were 4 or 5 years after the iPhone came out. So if we apply that same analogy, ChatGPT came out late 2022, 5 years is 2027. So maybe in 26, 27, we'll start to see the real products built on AI that use ChatGPT, Anthropic, Gemini as the engine of their business. And there's a whole product layer on top. And those products are all in development yet. We haven't really seen them, but we could see that in 26.
Right.
So I think 26 and 27 is going to continue to be very exciting times in the world of AI.
That'd be great to watch. Now, for something a bit more old-fashioned, obviously gold had a great run, as you said, in this year, and it's been great for the gold miners that you own in the Generate funds. What's your outlook for the precious metal in 2026, and of course also the gold miners?
Yeah, so we think, knock on wood, have more of the same, and that's because the fundamental drivers here are, large institutional investors, sovereign wealth funds, and a lot of retail investors want assets that protect the purchasing power of their savings. Long-term bonds have historically been, the go-to answer for that, and we think they will continue to be. But it's a question of diversifying away from long-term bonds to other asset classes that work, and gold has proven to be very good, not just in the last few years, but over several thousand years at protecting purchasing power. And in behind that is some questions around government finances, the sustainability of fiscal deficits, the purchasing power of the US dollar or other currencies. And we believe President Trump's going to announce a new Fed chair at some point, in the next few weeks, maybe. We believe that Fed chair is likely to be dovish. They're supporting President Trump's agenda for more support for the economy, and that's good for gold. So we think what's good for gold should be good for the gold miners, and so we remain constructive on the companies that we own. Fantastic.
And it's not, of course, all about the US. We've got exposure to companies in Europe and Asia. What's your outlook for those markets for 2026?
We think they should continue to do well. We're not expecting another banner year for them, well ahead of the US. Partly because a lot of the gains in 2025 were driven by valuations, and valuations coming back to normal levels or a bit above normal levels. Valuation changes tend to be one-time in nature, right? It's growth is sustaining. Hopefully, it's you get a certain amount of growth every year on top of each other, whereas valuations tend to be more cyclical. You have good years and bad years, and we had a really good year in both Japan and Europe in 2025. So. We think, we're still constructive on those markets. We still own investments in those markets, but probably a little more modest expectations for Europe and Asia relative to gold and the AI stocks.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much for those insights and taking time today. It was great to get where you're thinking on AI, gold, and also global markets. So plenty for investors to digest looking ahead into 2026. So thanks for your time again.
Great. Thanks, Greg. It's good to be here.
Thank you for watching this month's update. We hope you found it useful. Make sure to leave a comment. We love those. And also be sure to subscribe to stay informed. Bye for now.